I stared at the photo for almost a full minute before I could breathe. It wasn't even sent to me directly. No, that would have been too obvious. Too human. Instead, it showed up in a group message. Her and a bunch of old college friends, 23 people in total. And there she was, smack in the middle of the frame, drink in one hand, his arm around her waist like he owned her. Like I didn't exist. And the worst part? She was smiling. Not the polite smile she gives when someone points a camera at her. No, this was the smile. The one I hadn't seen in years. The one she used to give me when we were still us. The caption said, "Reunited. Carson's parties never disappoint, face blowing a kiss." I read it 5 times. Carson, Carson, Carson. The same Carson she swore she hadn't talked to in years. The one she claimed was barely a memory. The same one I begged her not to visit. Just 72 hours earlier, she had promised me she wouldn't go. I didn't even make a scene about it. I just asked, calmly, like a rational adult, if maybe it wasn't the best idea to attend her ex's birthday party. I was hoping she'd look me in the eyes and say, "You're right. It's not worth hurting you." Instead, she said, "I'm not asking for permission." And that was that. I slept on the couch the night before the party. Not out of protest, just because I couldn't lie beside someone who dismissed me like that. The morning of, she left without a word. No kiss. No goodbye. Just the slam of the door and the sound of her heels clicking down the porch steps like gunfire. I stayed quiet. I didn't text her. I didn't guilt her. I didn't even look at her socials, though I wanted to. But now here she was, standing next to him like I was the side character in her life. And what did I do? I closed the photo. I set my phone down. And I screamed into a pillow so hard it felt like my lungs would rip open. That was Saturday night. By Sunday, she still hadn't come home. No texts. No updates. No "sorry I stayed late" or "phone died." Just silence. And that damn photo burned into my brain. But here's the thing. I didn't blow up her phone. I didn't track her location. I didn't rage or cry or even ask why. Instead, I made a decision. I was going to ignore Carson. Not fight him. Not confront him. Not warn him off like some pathetic sitcom husband. No, I was going to pretend he didn't exist. Pretend like he hadn't touched my wife. Like he didn't matter. Like he wasn't even a threat. And I would keep it up for 7 days. 7 full days of playing it cool. Of smiling at Lena like everything was normal. Of acting like I hadn't seen the photo or the way her lipstick smeared on his collar. And you know what? It worked. But not in the way I expected. Because by the end of the week, he was the one texting me. And what he sent me, that changed everything. On Wednesday afternoon, 4 days after the party, I was halfway through heating leftover pasta when my phone buzzed. It was a message request from someone not in my contacts. First name Carson, last name Yem. I stared at it for a while before opening it. I told myself not to. I told myself it wouldn't help. But curiosity, pride, pain, whatever toxic cocktail was running through my chest, it made me swipe. The message was short. Too short. "Hey man, I know things are probably weird. Just want to say I respect you. Hope we're cool." Cool. He hoped we were cool. Like I was some buddy of his, just casually watching my wife cozy up with her old flame while sipping beer on the sidelines. Like this wasn't the man who once wrote Lena late-night poetry and drove 3 hours just to bump into her at some music festival before she ever met me. Like he didn't know exactly what he was doing when he invited her to that party. I didn't reply. Instead, I stared at his profile photo for a solid minute. Him on a sailboat, sunglasses on, no shirt, holding up a fish like he was auditioning for some dating show I never asked to be part of. And in the back of my mind, I kept seeing his hand on Lena's waist in that party photo. The casual ownership in his posture. The way she leaned in, like she never left. I spent the next hour pacing the kitchen. Pasta cold. My thoughts burning. When Lena came home that evening, she walked in like nothing had happened. Gave me a tired smile, dropped her bag, kissed me on the cheek, and asked, "Dinner plans?" That's when I knew she had no idea I'd seen the photo. No clue Carson had reached out. She was still playing the game. Still believing she had the upper hand. So I smiled. I said, "Thought we could do leftovers. Simple night." She looked relieved, relaxed. And that told me everything I needed to know. She'd been waiting to see how much I knew. She didn't confess because, in her head, I hadn't seen anything. And that meant I still had the advantage. But what she didn't know was that I'd already made a silent pact with myself. I was going to let this unravel, all on its own. No confrontation. No drama. I wanted her to walk into her own mess. And she would. Because people like Carson, they always talk too much. They always push too far. So I waited. And I watched. And 2 days later, I found something in Lena's purse that cracked the whole thing open. Not a phone. Not a love note. Not anything dramatic. Just a receipt. But it told me exactly where they'd been after the party. And it wasn't where she claimed. Everything changed after that. It was tucked inside a side pocket in her purse, the one she usually never used. I wasn't snooping. Okay, maybe I was a little, but not in the way she'd accuse me of. I was just looking for the spare car keys. She's always losing them. But what I found instead, a folded receipt, barely crumpled, like it had been placed there with care. Almost too much care. I wasn't expecting anything. I thought maybe a Starbucks run, maybe some boutique stop. What I got instead? A dinner tab from a place called Maison Ivy. A place I'd never been. A place I couldn't afford. A place she swore was way too fancy for people like us. The date? The night of Carson's party. The time? 11:12 p.m. The receipt listed 2 entrees, 3 cocktails, and a bottle of wine that cost more than our microwave. And worst of all, a handwritten note on the back, from the waiter, probably, that said, "You two make a beautiful couple. Come back soon to Hearts." I must have sat there holding it for 15 minutes, my hands shaking like I'd just been exposed to radiation. My thoughts went dark, heavy, ugly. She told me she stayed at a girlfriend's place after the party. Said she drank too much to drive. That it was just a bunch of old friends dancing and catching up. She didn't mention a candlelit dinner. She didn't mention him. When she walked into the kitchen that evening, I had already put the receipt back. I didn't ask her about it. I didn't confront her or show my hand. Instead, I poured her a glass of the cheap white wine we always drink, the one that gives her a headache after 2 sips, and I smiled. She smiled back, tired again, like she'd been pretending all day. She made small talk. Office drama. A coworker who printed 300 pages by accident. A new intern who didn't understand what BCC meant on email. She laughed, told me I wouldn't believe how clueless people could be. And all I could think was, neither would you, Lena. Because what she didn't know was that I had already looked up Maison Ivy. I had already pulled up their Instagram. And guess what? They had posted a photo from that night, of a dimly lit corner booth. 2 wine glasses. A man's hand resting on top of a woman's. You couldn't see their faces, not fully. But Lena's red nails? Unmistakable. And that sapphire ring I gave her 3 years ago for our anniversary? Front and center, catching the light like a silent witness. I saved the post to my phone and locked it away like a loaded weapon. I didn't need to confront her yet. Not now. I wanted to wait and watch. I wanted to see how many more lies she could stack before the whole thing came crashing down. But then something happened that flipped the script again. Carson messaged me. Not on social this time. He emailed me at my work account. I don't know how he got it, but I opened it during a staff meeting, thinking it was something about a client. Instead, it started with 2 words. You win. That was it. No subject line. No signature. Just you win. And I had no idea what it meant. Until that night, when Lena came home shaking. That night was different the moment I heard the keys in the door. Normally, she pushes it open like she's walking into a spa. Calm, collected, sometimes even humming like nothing in the world can touch her. But this time, she struggled. The key didn't fit right. Her hands were trembling. I could hear it in the metal. When the door finally opened, she didn't even look at me. She walked past like a ghost, eyes red, cheeks blotchy, breathing like she'd just run from something. She smelled like cold air and panic. And I watched her, quietly, from the living room while she dropped her bag by the stairs and leaned against the wall like her legs couldn't hold her up. Rough day? I asked. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted to see if she'd lie to my face again. Maybe because some sick part of me was hoping she'd just break down and say it. She nodded. Didn't speak. Didn't come closer. She just nodded. We stood in silence for a moment that felt like a full hour. Then she asked the one question I didn't expect. Did Carson message you? I blinked. Swallowed hard. Why would he? She hesitated, like she was calculating which version of the truth she could survive. I think he's trying to mess with me, she said. Or us. I don't know. He's been weird lately. I think maybe I shouldn't have gone to that party. Just like that, she threw herself a lifeline. He's weird. It was a mistake. The coward's version of a confession, vague regret, no details, just enough guilt to look human, but not enough to take responsibility. So I played along. Do you regret going? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Her mouth opened slightly, like she was going to say yes, like she wanted to, but then her jaw locked and she looked down at the floor. I'm just tired, she muttered, brushing past me. I let her go. I let her retreat upstairs and lock the bathroom door and pretend like nothing needed to be said. But the moment she was out of sight, I pulled up that email again. You win. I stared at those two words for so long they started to look like a code I was supposed to crack. But the longer I looked, the more something clicked. Carson wasn't trying to be cryptic. He was giving up. Or he was being told to give up. Which made me wonder, what had happened between them that pushed him to reach out to me again? What had she done? Or said? The next day, I had my answer. I went out to walk the dog, just to get some space. Lena was still asleep. Or pretending to be. And when I came back, there was a note on our porch. A real, physical note, in a thick, white envelope, with no name, just taped to the front door like it was some kind of ransom demand. Inside was a photo, a printed photo, of Lena and Carson, standing outside Maison Ivy, her hand on his chest, his hand on her face. It looked intimate. Too intimate. Like something out of a farewell scene in a romance movie. Except the timestamp on the photo wasn't from the night of the party. It was 3 days ago. 3 days after she told me nothing happened. And now I knew for sure. This wasn't just a slip. It wasn't one bad choice or an emotional accident. It was a continuation. A deliberate one. I didn't confront her that morning. Or the next. Because something told me this was only half the truth. So I made a plan. And the first step was going somewhere she'd never expect me to go. Straight to Carson. It was drizzling that morning. Not a storm, not a downpour, just that kind of slow, annoying mist that creeps into your clothes and sticks to your skin. I didn't care. I drove to his place without thinking twice. I found the address through one of Lena's old emails. She'd booked a dog-sitting gig for Carson's sister years ago, and his name was listed as the emergency contact. I remembered because I hated how casual she was about it back then. It's just Carson, don't be weird. Right. His apartment was nicer than I expected. Too nice. Exposed brick, high windows, fake minimalist furniture. It screamed someone trying hard to appear effortless. The building had one of those dumb buzzers that connects to a phone app, but someone coming out let me slip inside without a word. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor. My heart was thudding, but my face was calm. I didn't knock. I wanted him to open the door and see me standing there, unannounced, out of place, and entirely too calm. That's exactly what happened. He opened it in a t-shirt and joggers, clearly not expecting company. His face drained of color like he'd just seen something crawl out of his own past. Curtis, he said, stunned. Wow, okay, didn't expect. You emailed me. I cut in. Thought I'd return the favor. He stepped aside hesitantly, like I might be holding a weapon. I wasn't. I didn't need one. Inside, his apartment smelled like eucalyptus and expensive coffee. A record player was spinning something pretentious in the background. He sat down on the edge of his sleek little couch while I stayed standing. I don't want to fight you, he started. I know what this looks like. No, I interrupted. You know exactly what this is. Silence. I didn't sleep with her, he finally said, and his voice cracked just enough that I knew he was lying. Or at least hiding something. She kissed you. At the restaurant. After the party. She touched your face like it was still hers. That didn't look accidental. He rubbed his jaw, looked away. It didn't start like that. She reached out to me after we ran into each other last year. We didn't plan anything, man. It was conversations at first. Behind my back. He nodded. Yeah, there it was. No deflection. No excuse. Just yeah. And for some reason, that stung more than anything else. I didn't come here to make a scene, I said quietly. I came here because I need you to know something. He looked up. You don't get to play the victim, I said. You don't get to email me cryptic garbage like, you win, and expect me to forget you spent months circling her like a vulture. You think you're better than me? You're just louder. He didn't reply. He just blinked. Swallowed. I think for the first time he realized I wasn't the weak one in this situation. Not anymore. I pulled the photo from my coat pocket, the one from the envelope, and placed it on his coffee table. Someone's playing both of us, I said. His eyes narrowed. She gave me a different date. She said that photo was from months ago. Check the timestamp. It was Tuesday. He froze. Suddenly, we weren't enemies. We were collateral damage. And that's when the idea hit me. Not revenge, not rage, just exposure. Not to hurt her, but to force the truth out of hiding. I didn't want to ruin her. I wanted her to finally stand in the mess she created. No more hiding. No more, it's not a big deal. Carson looked at me with a strange mix of fear and curiosity. What are you going to do? I smiled. Something quiet. And something permanent. He didn't ask what I meant. He just sat there, speechless, probably realizing he'd lost her. Not to me, but to the truth. And the truth was about to knock on her door next. The next morning, I folded the laundry without being asked. I made coffee exactly the way she likes it. Oat milk, half a spoon of raw sugar, 2 ice cubes to cool it down. I even left her favorite mug on the counter with a tiny sticky note that said, "Hope today's easier." I watched her from the hallway as she saw it. The way she blinked, the pause in her step, that slow realization crawling up her spine. Something was off. She didn't smile. She didn't thank me. She just picked up the mug like it might explode and stared at it in silence. I went back upstairs and opened my laptop, pretending to scroll through emails, but all I could think about was the weight of my next move. This wasn't about revenge anymore, not exactly. This was about clarity, about finally lifting the fog and letting her see what she'd done, what she was risking, and what she was never getting back. I'd already spoken to Carson. I had the timeline, the messages, even one voicemail, shaky and slurred, where she told him, "I wish I didn't feel guilty, but I do. I just don't know if I want to stop." I couldn't listen to it more than once. Her voice cracked halfway through, and I couldn't tell if it was from guilt or excitement. But now it was her turn to speak. So I gave her silence. Every time she tried to talk, I smiled politely, asked about her day, told her I had work to catch up on. No fights, no begging, just quiet, relentless kindness. And it rattled her. By Thursday, she was pacing the kitchen at night. By Friday, she stopped looking me in the eye. And on Saturday, exactly 1 week after Carson's party, she cracked. It started small. She sat down beside me while I was watching some old cooking show and asked, "Is everything okay?" I nodded. "Sure. Why wouldn't it be?" She blinked, hesitated. Her voice dropped a note. "I don't know. You just feel distant." I looked at her and gave her the softest, most terrifying smile I could manage. "I'm just giving you space. You seem to need it." She flinched, and then she said it. Not the whole truth, not yet, but a thread. A weak, panicked little thread. "I think I made a mistake going to Carson's." I didn't answer. She kept going. "He texted me. He's been acting weird. I think he's trying to start something that isn't even real. Like he's obsessed or something." Now it was my turn to blink. She was rewriting it, framing it as if he was the problem, as if he chased her, as if she didn't have a wine glass in one hand and her fingers on his chest 3 days after the party. But I let her keep talking. And the more she spoke, the more desperate she sounded. Like someone trying to rearrange the facts before the police showed up. Every sentence was a version of, "I didn't mean for it to happen," except she still hadn't said what it was. So I leaned forward. "Lena," I said, my voice steady, "do you want to tell me what you're really apologizing for?" She froze. Completely froze. That's when she realized I wasn't confused. I wasn't suspicious. I knew. Her face changed. Something behind her eyes caved in. Her shoulders dropped like the weight of her lies had finally crushed through. And then, finally, she broke. But I didn't expect what she said next. Because the betrayal didn't end with Carson. She sat there trembling, her lips parted but no words coming out. For a long moment, all she did was stare at the floor like if she avoided my eyes long enough, maybe the truth would dissolve between us. But it didn't. It waited, and I gave her nothing. No hint of mercy, no cue to soften the blow. I let the silence strangle her. Then, finally, in a whisper barely louder than a breath, she said, "It wasn't just Carson." I didn't flinch. I think a part of me already knew. Somewhere in the pit of my stomach, I'd felt it. That this wasn't about one night or one man. It was something more, something deeper, rotting under the surface of our marriage like mold behind drywall. She rubbed her palms together. Her wedding ring tapped against her knuckle like it didn't belong there anymore. "Last fall," she said slowly, "I was in Chicago for that marketing conference. You remember?" Of course I remembered. I'd sent her off with a travel charger she forgot, packed her snacks, even left a note in her bag that said, "Proud of you, always." She texted me the first night and FaceTimed the second, and the third night, She said she was too tired to talk and needed rest. I met someone there, she continued, voice barely holding together. It was stupid. He was a speaker. I didn't plan it. It was just the way he talked, I don't know. I hadn't felt that scene in a long time. Scene. That word burned. She didn't cry. She just looked empty, like someone who had already cried too much alone and now had nothing left. I sat there, heart pounding, fingers digging into the couch cushion, thinking of every night I stayed up late planning her birthday surprise that year. Every little moment I thought we were okay. How long? I asked. Just once, she said quickly, too quickly. In Chicago. And then we texted for a few weeks after, but I ended it. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, God, it wasn't, but because she said it like I was supposed to thank her. Like cheating once was somehow noble because she didn't cheat again. Like texting him after was just some accidental follow-up to betrayal. And Carson? I asked. Was that also just once? Silence. I stared at her until the answer became obvious. She looked down and whispered, "We met up twice after the party." That was it. No dramatics. No breakdown. Just calm confession. Cold, fragile honesty delivered like a sick form of closure. I nodded. I got up. She stood too, panicked now. "Curtis, wait, please. I messed up. I messed up everything, but I still love you. I just got lost. I didn't know how to." "I know exactly how you got lost," I said, stepping back. "You stopped looking for me." She begged me to sit down, to listen, to go to therapy, to give her a chance to explain it right. But what else was left to say? That she didn't mean it? That the hotel sheets in Chicago were cold and unfamiliar, and somehow that made it okay? That Carson understood her in a way I didn't. I'd heard it all before, not in words, but in silence, in distance, in the way she pulled away every time I tried to touch her. So I told her I needed air. I walked out, not with a bag, not with a speech, just my phone, my wallet, and the truth. That night, I stayed at a friend's, slept on a half-deflated air mattress, and stared at the ceiling until 4 a.m. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just laid there with one question echoing through my skull like a broken record. What do you do when the person you trusted most becomes a stranger with your secrets? But the thing is, I already knew the answer. You take your power back. Quietly. And permanently. I didn't go back. Not that day, not the next. I stayed with my friend Liam for a week. No explanations. No dramatics. Just time. Space. Air that didn't smell like lies and perfume. And in that quiet, something started to shift inside me. Not healing. Not yet. But clarity. For the first time in months, I wasn't guessing. I wasn't wondering. I finally knew what was real and what was performed. Lena texted every day. At first it was guilt-soaked apologies. Then offers for therapy. Then long, desperate messages about memories and how much we've built and how we could still fix it if we try. I didn't answer. She even showed up at Liam's place once, pounding on the door until I finally came out, arms crossed, jaw locked. "I don't want this to be the end," she said, crying in the driveway. "It already is," I told her. "You just didn't notice when it happened." I didn't shout. I didn't throw the words like knives. I just said them. And for once, I saw it land. Her face collapsed in real time. She looked like someone who'd suddenly found themselves in the ruins of something they thought was still standing. That weekend, I signed the lease on a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy. One bedroom, crooked cabinet doors, water pressure that makes you fight for every second of your shower. But it was mine. It was honest. I slept better on that cheap mattress than I had in years. I started going to the gym again. I stopped checking her socials. I reconnected with my sister, with an old college buddy I hadn't seen in 4 years. I even picked up my camera again, something I hadn't done since Lena said it was just a hobby I should grow out of. And then something crazy happened. 3 months later, while I was shooting photos at a community art event, I met someone. Her name's Rena. She's not flashy or dramatic. She doesn't post cryptic quotes or keep her phone face down. She's direct, kind, a little weird in the best way. One night, over coffee, she asked me what I do for a living. I told her I used to photograph people for other brands, but now I was figuring out how to shoot for myself. She smiled and said, "Good. You look like someone who's ready to be the main character again." And I don't know why, but that hit harder than any apology Lena ever gave. Lena still tries now and then. A message on my birthday, a sad emoji under an old photo, but I don't reply. Not out of anger, but because that version of me doesn't live here anymore. I didn't lose everything. I found peace. And somehow, in the wreckage, I found me.